You're listening to Change Your POV podcast, episode 152.
And you clamped it down and got it all set and put the wires through the receptacles and cinched them down. It wasn't even like red and black. They were like wing nuts, you know? So you like wrapped it around and wing nutted it down. I ducked behind the house, pushed the freaking button, because that's what it was. It was a button, basically. And kaboom!
Change Your POV is dedicated to helping veterans through education, personal and professional development, coaching, and speaking the truth, regardless how hard it sometimes is. This show would absolutely not be what it is without Bennett Tanton. I remember about a year ago, the conversation Bennett and I had when he uttered those words, "Your solo show really sucks, dude. Would you like me to come on the show so you'll have somebody to talk to?" And from that point on, Bennett brought an element to the show unmatched by any other. A loving husband, father to a pack of girls, an Army and Marine Corps veteran, peer support specialist, and the founder of Warrior Hall. This week, I have the pleasure of interviewing our one and only Bennett Tanton. Hope you enjoy. Hello, folks, and welcome to Change Your POV podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I'm Bennett Tanton.
And today, we are doing something a little bit different. I've been interviewed, as a matter of fact, on Cigars and Sea Stories way back in the day. And I've also been interviewed on The Decision Hour with our good friend, Adam Bird. And I've also been interviewed on Wynn's podcast, Wynn's Butterflies of Wisdom. And so this is February, and our theme for this month is relationships. And Bennett and I have built an amazing relationship over the last, year and a couple of months or so.
I fucking hate you.
I know. And I was like, you know what? I don't ever remember. I've never actually interviewed you on the show, and I don't recall listening to any other shows where you've been interviewed on. So what I wanted to do, like I said, this is a little bit of a different episode. I wanted to actually bring you on the show, Bennett. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It's the first interview I've ever done.
And I want to interview you. And I obviously, we knew we were going to do this ahead of time, but I said, hey, I want to interview you. However, this is going to be like a no holds bar, full transparency, whatever.
See, folks, he's trying to do some weird shit here.
So there we go. I'm going to interview Bennett, and and so that's going to be our episode for this week. And I hope I'm going to enjoy this. I don't know. It may be serious. It may not be. It may be. I don't know what it's going to end up.
It will not be serious. I refuse to allow that to happen.
All right. Before we kick this off, though, I would like to thank this week's sponsor, Bennett. Who is this week's sponsor?
Mountain Up.
Mountain Up. Mountain Up Apparel is the premier military apparel and a clothing store. And
I'm like, Mountain Up.
That's right. And dude, they are always. It's amazing the stuff that they're coming out with. They just released a picture on their Facebook page of this. Have you seen it yet? That flag, that handcrafted. Wood flag,
the wooden ones.
Yeah, man. That looks sharp. The dude's like, you can see a picture of the guy. I don't know his name, the dude that makes them. But there he is, making them, putting shellac or lacquer or something on them.
Yeah, man, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, they are. And so
I'm sitting there looking like I need to call Ryan and see if I can get one of these before they go out.
I know,
because otherwise they're going to be sold out. I know it.
Well, and that's the thing about handcrafted anything. Is one, there's no, they may look similar, but there's no two the same, right? There's no two alike.
Right.
That's the first thing about handcrafted stuff. The other thing is, because it is handcrafted, it's not like you got 10,000 Chinese guys on a manufacturing line cranking these things out, right? And selling them in Walmart in bulk. These are handcrafted. It takes some time to build and build each of the pieces that go into it and then put it together and paint it.
Right.
All of that. So it takes a lot of time. And so they just can't crank out that many. So not only do they want each one of a kind, essentially, but they that they're limited on how many they can build. So I'm telling you, man, if you get a chance to actually get one of these, I don't know if there's a wait list or how they're working it, but boy, I'm telling you, Mountain Up, you can check it out. If you're confused about what we're talking about, they've got a Facebook group at Mountain Up. You can go check it out. But it's also there on their website, and you can head over to the website and check this out and buy all these other great, wonderful things at changeyourpov.com/Mountain Up. And if you are so lucky as to be able to grab one of these wooden handcrafted flags, then at checkout, make sure you enter the code GOOD10, GOOD, and that will give you 10% off, my friends, just for you, the listeners of Change Your POV. So there you have it, folks. Mountain Up, check them out. Again, that's changeyourpov.com/Mountain Up. All right, now, Bennett, are you ready, sir?
I'm always ready.
All right, it's early morning Saturday. We both have our cup of coffee. All right, so again, you have to really dig deep because your mission, your task today in this interview, Bennett, is to if and when I ask you a question, you have to think back and wonder, is this something that our listening audience already knows about me? And if it is, you've got to change your answer so it's something new that our listening audience may not know about you.
I'm pretty surface, man. I don't get real deep.
Well, we'll see about that.
I'm just kidding.
We'll see about that. So, are you ready? Here we go. How old are you, sir?
I'm 42, I think.
You think?
Yeah, I was born in 74, so 42.
All right. And what was your favorite show growing up as a kid?
Oh my God, man. The one show that I remember waking up for, you know what? No, because I've talked about that. So, all right, the Three Stooges.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
The black and white version?
Like when I was little, like when I was not little, but even like into, 12, 13 probably.
Yeah.
I remember coming home because before like high school sports.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to get to come home, eat a snack, and like watch TV. And I used to come home from the age of, like 8. I was basically like a latchkey kid, man. Like that was it. Like my mom or dad didn't even get home until 5-ish.
Oh, okay. And you're an only child too, right?
Only child too.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't like at a friend's house, I was home by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Different era, different time. I mean, there's still kids like that now, but
sure, yeah,
they're far and fewer in between. But one of the shows that came on was the Three Stooges, and that was every freaking day, So I used to sit and watch, and I think they would do I think it was on for like a whole like hour and a half or 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Three Stooges. That's what pops into my head. And I still can watch those and laugh my ass off.
Well, the only reason you were watching the Three Stooges is because it was on the same channel. The real show you were really actually waiting for was Saved by the Bell, wasn't it?
Saved by the Bell. Man, I love you, Zach. I love you.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yeah, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That came on, that might have been on like right after Three Stooges.
Yeah, see? Okay.
There was something like that, one of those, but it wasn't Saved by the Bell. I think Saved by the Bell was like earlier or on another channel, and I refused to watch because I fucking hated that show.
Yeah. All right, next
Except
question.
for once in a while,
yeah.
I'd have to like stop and watch Kelly.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Had to sit and watch her a little bit. So, whatever.
Do you remember the show Elf?
Alf.
Alien
life form? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Furry bastard.
Yes. A lot of people are like, what the hell? What are you talking about?
What the fuck is Alf?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was okay.
It was okay.
The dad was a creepy, weird dude with the glasses.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember it. Yes.
Yeah, it was just the same. It was just the same time era, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. What was your favorite? I mean, were you into like any kind of war movies or anything that might have influenced your desire to join the military? Like
none.
Really?
Nope. 0.
Huh.
0%. Except for that, I like to blow shit up.
Okay. All right. Now, where were you born?
Hinsdale, Illinois.
Illinois. But was that where you were raised as well?
Until I was 13, I lived in Illinois, different parts of it, here and there.
Okay.
Lived in a little farm community till I was 10. Well, I lived in Hinsdale till I was 2, but so I don't remember that shit. And then from age 2 to age 10, we lived in a little town called Princeton, Illinois, which is in the I-80 corridor, about an hour from Peoria, Illinois. That's about the biggest city that's close-ish. And then at age 10, well, actually, I guess it was age, 9 or 10. My mom and my parents split up, and my mom and I moved to Bloomington Normal, which is a twin city. My mom taught at Illinois State University, or she went to grad school first, and then she taught there she went to grad school for 2 years and then ended up teaching there for another year at Illinois State University, and then we moved to Connecticut. So,
wow. Yeah, man. You and your mom pretty close then, if you're an only child and it's just you.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Now, did she ever have the unfortunate opportunity of actually walking in on you,
No, I never had that issue.
No, huh?
Never.
Huh.
Not once.
Well, good for you, man. Not many guys have ever been able to escape that.
Get through never.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, good. I'm actually happier for your mom than
she might have walked in on me doing other stuff, but not that.
Yeah, okay. Well, good. You never. So, what's the dumbest and or / most illegal thing you did as a growing up?
I blew. Wow. Well, I guess I wouldn't have thought about it as illegal in those days.
Yeah.
But, and you know what? I don't know if I've told this story, but it's such a good story that it needs to be told.
Okay. That's the whole point of this.
So, I was 8.
So there I was. I was 8.
So there I was. I was 8. And I was digging the fucking China, bro.
Like a hole out in the backyard?
Yeah. Yep. I was going to dig the China.
Okay.
So have you heard this story? Because you'd remember it if you.
No, I have not heard this story.
So I was going to dig to China. Like most kids. It doesn't seem like kids nowadays do this shit, but every kid back in my day was like, yep, I'm digging to China. Because it's like you learn geography right around that point, and you're like, wow, that shit's on the other. I could dig to China. Right. I don't know why we thought this, but I thought it. And there was a bunch of other kids that I know, and people were like, yeah, I tried to do that too. So I don't know if it was something in the water back then or what.
Right, yeah.
But, all right, so farm kid to an extent, like farming community. I mean, dude, 7,000 people in the town that I grew up in till I was 10, right?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest town in the county. That was like the county seat. The regional high school is there, which I lived right across the street from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you guys...
that was the hub of this county. That's basically the county is like the size of the state of Delaware.
So you guys had no problems with gossip then?
Zero.
Right.
0%. Like, it traveled so fast. But anyway, yeah, there's like 7,000. Basically, I knew every kid in the city, in the town, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really pretty small. 7,000 doesn't sound that small, but it's really freaking small.
Hell yeah. But
my grandmother, like all my friends owned farms. My grandmother owned a farm. Her husband, who, I called grandpa as well, because it wasn't my actual grandfather. He, did farming. So, all right. So I was taught early on how to make a slurry of ammonium nitrate bomb type thing that we used to blow up stumps.
Yeah. So you're talking like diesel and like fertilizer type stuff.
Basically, yeah. Diesel, like sawdust. There's some fertilizer involved. some of these things in an electrical charge blasting cap type thing.
NSA is tapping in right now, just so we're clear.
Right. Well, either way, I get it. It's like Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City shit.
Yeah.
Right. All right. But in a smaller form, obviously.
Right.
Well, I'm not making as much headway as I would like on this dig to China.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
So I had gotten down probably, I don't know. And that, now keep in mind, I'm 8.
Right.
I had farm kids, man. So I had gotten down probably about 4 foot in this hole. I just wasn't making the progress I wanted to make. So we had a barn on we had like 3 acres, 4 acres of land. Not very much, but it used to be a farm. There was a farm, like our house was that house that the neighborhood was kind of built up around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we had a barn in the backyard, huge, freaking gigantic barn, but it was like falling down. Like I was not really allowed in the barn because it was kind of like a safety hazard.
Sure.
But yeah, I spent almost all my time in that barn. Well, there was some old fertilizer in there. And we happened to have some diesel fuel and other various things. Because I frankly don't really remember. I could probably pull it out of my ass, but I don't really remember the recipe right now.
Yeah,
I knew it.
Yeah, let's.
I knew it really. Yeah, I knew it really good then.
Yeah.
So I basically made some explosive, homemade, plus whatever you want to call it. Tossed that shit in a hole. Drew my lines out. I mean, we even had the caps and everything.
Wow.
So dangerous. But now, like, this is part of the reason, like, there's all kinds of restrictions on this shit. So I strung it out, and there was, like, this little plunger pack that we had. It wasn't like a plunger. It was a battery. It had the big 6-volt batteries in them.
Oh yeah, with the the spring ends on the top.
Yeah, the big spring ends coming off.
Yeah.
And you clamped it down and got it all set and put the wires through the receptacles and cinched them down. It wasn't even like red and black. They were like wing nuts, you know?
Yeah.
So we like wrapped it around and wing nutted it down. I ducked behind the house, pushed the freaking button, because that's what it was. It was a button, basically. And kaboom! And if you ever... see, in my mind now that I think back, it's like one of those videos of where they actually, like, put a camera next to a target on a test range.
Yes.
And they drop one of those bunker busters. Where dirt's just like falling all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I remember is like getting hit by dirt, and my neighbor running out of their house and my mom running out of our house like, what the hell just happened, and screaming. And I got hit with a tirade of, what the fuck is going on? What is happening? What are you doing? Da, 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 this and that. And I remember running, even though I was being yelled at, I was running towards the hole.
Yeah, to see?
Just to see how deep I had got,
Right, yeah.
And it was pretty good crater, man. I had probably dug another like 3 foot of material out of the hole. And widened the hole at least, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
Didn't have the desired effect that I wanted it to have.
Sure.
But it was, man, it was an experience.
So you were smart enough to know how to build a bomb, but not smart enough to know that digging the China just was not feasible.
Correct.
That's awesome.
I found out that day, basically. That would take a lot more explosives,
right,
to dig out,
yeah,
this hole that I wanted to dig to China.
Jesus.
And then I was grounded for basically ever.
Were the cops ever called? Or
no,
huh? That was back in the day where cops were
Oh,
like,
yeah, man.
the parents got this. You know what I mean? Because back
Oh
then
yeah,
the parents did
got
get it.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, and I got my ass beat.
Oh yeah.
There's no way about it. This wasn't a spanking. This was my dad. All right, so my dad had been, I can't remember. Oh no, it was my mom's. My mom had been in a sorority in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had paddles and shit.
Right.
I got my ass beat with a paddle. My mom's sorority paddle.
No shit, huh?
Kappa Kappa Gamma,
Jeez.
I think is what it was.
So you got
Yeah, and I got Kappa Kappa Gamma, boy.
So you got KKK smacked across your ass.
Something like that. Whatever it was, dude, it was bad. Bad. I just remember, and see, I don't, sometimes you just don't remember things, right? Well, I remember that, boy.
Jesus.
Because that was traumatic.
Yeah.
And a bunch of levels. Traumatic for my mother, too. Because the other time, we had a 4 years old, we had this roof line that came out from my bedroom. And my mom found me sitting on top of the roof when I was 4.
Wow. Trying to fly, or what were you doing?
Oh, no, I was just sitting there, hanging out, chilling. So you may question my parents' parenting ability. But if you have active boys, I guess you would understand.
Yeah.
Your parents probably understand as well.
Yeah,
right?
Parenting back then, I think, there was different expectations than parenting today, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I get it, because I did a lot of stupid shit too. And we look back now, and we look at our kids. We look at our kids at the age that we were then doing this stupid shit, and you're like, holy fuck, right? Like, I couldn't imagine my kids doing that shit.
Oh yeah, craziness.
Yeah, it's just asinine.
No, I would lose my freaking mind. Like when I tell some stories like those stories to like my wife and her family,
yeah,
their like jaws are like
right, yeah,
wide open. They're like, okay, you married him, why?
That's awesome. That's really cool. Dude. Now I know somebody that knows how to make a bomb if we ever need it. Just saying.
The DHS that's listening right now. Hey, I don't remember how to do it. I promise. But the military taught me how to do other crazy shit. So
yeah. So you graduate high school, and what possessed you to join the military?
Well, because I've been asked this question a few times, and it's always, I really, at the time, I didn't want to go to college. I had been offered, not scholarships, but to play soccer in college. I had been offered places on 2 D2 schools and a D3 school. So I was a pretty good soccer player, obviously. I mean, even though it wasn't like Division I scholarship offers, you don't get offered to play in college if you're not good.
Right, yeah.
So, but frankly, I just didn't want to anymore. So one day I saw the Marine Corps recruiter. I was sitting, I can't remember why I was in the like career center. And I think it's because I was actually looking at colleges. Okay. But he walked in, and I was the only kid in there, and he walked up and was like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "How you doing?" And we started talking, and the next thing I know, I'm like, "Yeah, bro, that sounds awesome."
Yeah.
I was that kid, you know? Oh, this might just, I think this is the ticket. So I went and I said, let me think about it. And I will call you, cause I had practice, cause I played other sports too. And I'm trying to remember what season it was, cause it was in the spring. So I think I don't know if I was playing volleyball or basketball or I don't remember. Anyway, so I gave it like 2 days. And I called him and I was like, all right, I want to do this. Didn't talk to my mom about it. Didn't even bring it up to her. She would have been all for it if I had. But I just was like, you know what? I made the decision. I signed the contract. I brought it home and I said, Mom, I joined the Marine Corps. And she was like, wait, what?
You did what?
You did what? And it wasn't like, oh, I wanted to pay for college
Mm-hmm.
or I wanted to, it even wasn't like I wanted to serve my country. There was that aspect, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt compelled. It hadn't even been an option. You have to understand the high school where I grew up and went to high school was very rich.
Mm.
I was like the poorest kid in the whole school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I mean, literally, I'm not even exaggerating because it's a suburb of, it's Fairfield, Connecticut. And the bordering towns are like Westport, Greenwich isn't that far away. This is where people that have huge, I mean, the average price of a house in that city is close to $1 million, I think.
Wow.
So I just it's like I fit in because I fit in, but I didn't fit in. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't like a big hotbed for recruiting for the military. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because most of those kids are going to college.
Right. It wasn't even an option. Mm. It just kind of, fell upon it. And then once I knew about it, once it's like that was in my head, mm-hmm. that was all I wanted to do. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. Yep.
It's like it hadn't even been an option until it became an option.
And then
I was like, holy shit. And then from that point, it was Full Metal Jacket is the only show that I watched, only movie that I ever watched. And then also one of my good friends in high school joined too.
Oh, okay.
So he decided to go, which I haven't talked to him physically. This is the crazy part. I haven't talked to him physically since I left to go to boot camp.
Really? Now, was this
I
something
talked to him on Facebook a little bit, but
yeah. Was it you that talked him into joining with you? Or?
No. He had just it was kind of the same type of thing.
Gotcha.
He had just decided to join.
The recruiters got his hooks into him too, huh?
Yes. Correct.
So you joined the Marine Corps as an infantryman? I know you ended up going recon.
No, it was open. I actually had a really good, I think my GT score was like it, and everyone listening should know what a GT score is. Mm-hmm. Well, the majority of people. But for the people that don't, it's basically the culmination of your what's called ASVAB test. And at that point, my GT score was something like a 121 or something.
Jesus.
It was really high.
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah, you only needed a one. Like you qualified to do any job if you had over like a 110 or 115 or something like that.
110, yeah.
You could do any job that you wanted, basically, as long as your other scores fell within.
Yeah.
So I literally could choose whatever I wanted. And I chose to go in open contract.
I needed I had a GT score where I needed a waiver to become an infantryman.
Jesus.
Anyway, that's for another day. All right, so
that's for another day. But anyway, yeah, 121. And my recruiter's like, what the hell? Like, he didn't care though, really. He was just like, what do you mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, I either want to be and here were my choices. I was like, in my head, I either wanted to be infantry or I wanted to be a cook. And I didn't care which, and there wasn't like any, I didn't want to be, I didn't really want to be anything else.
Wait a minute, hold on. I gotta stop there. Like, you've got two choices, infantry or cook. Dude, those are like two ends of the spectrum, bro.
Right.
Like some people are like infantry or, mortarman or yeah, right. Or cook and admin are maybe close together. But you go from like infantry to cook and you could be anything, and the recruiter is just salivating at this point. Like, oh my God, I could fill any billet I want with this guy, right?
Right.
And so where did you end up going?
Infantry.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know until I was getting out of boot camp. They sit us all down at the end and they give us our MOSs.
Yeah, is that like I see that in Full Metal Jacket?
That's real.
That's real, huh?
Pretty much.
No shit. Wow. Okay.
We were in like a school circle, and the drill instructor went down the list, and most people knew what they were.
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So it was literally like, and basically my thing was, at that time, basically open contract was going to put me in one of those two MOSs.
Sure.
Even Motor T wasn't, there's not a whole lot of Motor T in the Marine Corps anyway.
Right.
So at that point, yeah, it was going to be either infantry or cook pretty much. And I was okay with either.
Right.
Isn't that a lot of people find that out weird, but
that's weird.
But that was one of my options too, is I had actually gotten a scholarship to go to culinary arts school.
Wow.
And I decided not to do so, to Johnson and Wales. It wasn't a full ride or anything, but it was like a partial scholarship.
Sure.
To go to culinary school. And I've always thought about doing it. There's always this. I mean, you've tasted my cooking.
Yes. And even drunk, it still tasted excellent.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you cooking it while drunk was.
Right. I was sober when I cooked it.
Well, define sober, my friend.
Yeah. I have a high tolerance for alcohol.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I was okay with that, and then decided to. Once I went through all the infantry bullshit, I don't know if it would, do you want me to stop there? Or do you have?
No. Let's move on. So I think the listening audience has a pretty good understanding of kind of your military career at that point. So now we get into your post-military. You've kind of you got out of the Marine Corps, you got into the Army. We all heard that one. So now you end up meeting your first wife while you were still in, or were
yes.
you, okay? And was that kind of like, is that a lot of guys, they meet their a lot of guys
starter wife.
There you go, starter wife, right. So that was just the kind of the deal. And
it wasn't at that time, but that's the way it turned out.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And you guys had a daughter together.
Yes.
Who is the same age as my son, right? 21.
Yeah, and it was kind of it wasn't a shotgun wedding, but it was she got pregnant before we were married.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Been there. And then did that ended up ending before you got out or after you got out?
Shortly after.
Okay.
I got out.
What was like was it the transition? Was it?
Well, sort of. I think it was probably over before I even got out. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
I got a job as a stockbroker.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people already know. So I got a job as a stockbroker. I moved up to Long Island, and the idea was once I made enough money, which didn't take very long. Because I was working for a boiler room, basically, and you can make really good money really fast. The idea was that I would make enough money, and then she would move up with the baby. Mm-hmm. Well, once I had done that and accomplished it, she decided she didn't want to move up anymore. Part of that's because she was screwing some other guy. Yeah. So anyway, that's a whole nother story, and it's not one that we really need to go deeply into. So then I, in my infinite wisdom, decided, I'm going to do the right thing and try and save my marriage. Mm-hmm. So I quit the burgeoning the burgeoning very successful career that I could have had as a stockbroker, and quit and went back down to North Carolina. We just kind of go from there, and then that failed. And
do you ever regret giving up that career? Do you ever think back and wish you were still doing that?
Yes and no. I mean, just because I was, I didn't particularly like it, but I wish I had done it maybe a little longer, and socked away some money.
Sure.
To really put myself in a good position. But anyway, hindsight's 2020. I had some good time. I had good times when I was up there.
Different world, huh?
It was an experience for sure. And then, but then I went back down, and I got a job as a loss prevention manager.
Oh, that couldn't have been fun.
No, actually it was, because I was in charge.
Yeah.
So And I had I had like 6 stores that I ran security for, and had 4 or 5 employees that were under me.
Oh, wow. Did those employees rotate around to those different stores?
No, they each had their own stores.
Okay.
And then there was 2 without a full-time loss prevention person.
Yep.
But yeah, so it was a lot of managing and leadership, and it was good. And we busted a lot of freaking people stealing stuff and employees. See that? So as a loss prevention manager, my main job was internal theft.
Well, that's the thing is most of the loss that any of those retail stores incur is from sales,
internal.
is from sales associates, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like 80%.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Shoplifting, I mean, think about it. It's not like you're stuffing high-ticket items down your pants and running out of the store.
Yeah, right.
It's the people, especially like jewelry counters.
Yep.
Those are the big ones. So anyway.
So how did you end up meeting your current wife? How'd that, tell us briefly that story.
All right. So in the Army, just had redeployed, came back from Egypt in, say, March, I think, of 2002. So, right after September 11th, we came back. We've already gotten word that we're deploying. Basically, in a year, we're deploying to Afghanistan. Like, we know that shit already. Like, they've already set up the rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got a part-time job, bouncing for a couple different places. It's for one owner, but this guy owned like 6 different bars in the area, in the Watertown, upstate New York area, like North Country, they call it. From A Bay, between Alexandria Bay, which is right on the border, to Watertown, New York. So he owned 2 or 3 places in Watertown, and then a place or 2 up in A Bay. And I bounced at 2 of the places in Watertown and 1 of the places in A Bay. So it was a Saturday night up in Alexandria Bay. I was bouncing. It's a place called the Islander. It's not called the Islander anymore. It's still there. And her and her friend and her friend's boyfriend came in, and everyone was like, shit. We were rotating through positions, and we had this one position that was right between like the dance floor and the bar. And she came up and started talking to me. She made a comment on my boots or something, because we wore basically like a military type. We wore ripstop black pants.
Yeah.
The BDU pants, cami pants, whatever you want to call them. But they were black with our boots and a black T-shirt that said security.
Nice.
Which, whatever. So, and that was the time before I had a little tubby belly, and I was pretty freaking jacked. But so she decided to come up and talk to me. She made a comment on my boots, because my boots were older, like jungle boots. And so they were kind of, that pair that you have that are real nice and shiny, but they're kind of cracked. And they've had, and see, a lot of new guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but because they don't even polish boots now. But so anyway, she was like, your boots are kind of messed up. And I was like, she's like, because everyone else's are so pretty or so nice or something like that. And then I made the comment to her, like, well, these boots, I can't remember what I said, but basically I was calling everyone else a fucking cherry.
Right. Yeah.
Because they were.
Your shit was broken. Right.
My shit was fucking, salty.
Yeah. Right.
Basically. And I was like, yeah, well, these boots have been in the, been around more whatever than black and whatever. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was funny.
Yeah.
At least at the time. The thing that got her is that I didn't hit on her. Because I didn't. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Some other chick I'm talking to in the bar. Now, she was hot, in my opinion. Great shirt with nice cleavage and the whole thing. And I was like, shit. And everybody's like, damn, the fuck? All the guys. because they saw me talk, so they were all busting my balls after so I ended up so I talked to her for quite a while. We just talked though.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ended up having to kick them out.
The girls?
Yeah. Her friend and her is mainly because of her friend's boyfriend. Because he decided because he was drunk as shit, decided he wanted to like start a mosh pit. And this is not a mosh pit place.
Right.
Not even close.
Yeah.
This is like older, like, yeah, it's just not a mosh pit place. So I ended up kind of like looking at her and I go, yeah, basically I've got to get him out of here. So you're more than welcome to stay, but he's got to go. Mm-hmm. So she left with them. Right. Cause I basically like, all right, you guys got to go. Well, she gave me her number and she's like, you can call me, but like I gave her my number too. And she's like, but I will never call you.
Really?
Because it's just how it, she was like, it's a guy you meet in a bar. Blah, blah. So by the way, gentlemen, if a girl gives you her number, make sure you call it. But if you give them your number, more than likely it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Not happening.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
Okay. And you've worked in enough bars to know kind of that's the
yes,
trend.
I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah. And watched enough assholes crash and burn in their, no. So anyway, that was it. And I called her the next day and that was history. Boom.
Wow. So how long?
Now we are, that was 2002.
How long did you guys date before you realized that was, that was it?
I probably only about 6 or 8 months.
Oh, wow.
And then I knew.
Yeah.
We got married in 2004. So almost 2 years. It was about 2 years later we ended up getting married.
Wow. You're like, yep, I'm marrying the bar chick.
Yep. That was it.
Nice. Of all the things and experiences that you've done in your life, what's the one thing you regret the most?
Of what I've done?
Yeah, just things that you've done. Just like you look back now and you're like, damn, if I had one do-over.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, bro.
Okay.
And it's to get out of the military.
You wouldn't have gotten out?
Of
the Marine Corps? Or the Army?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know which. It would have been both. I just shouldn't have gotten out. The problem with the second time, I shouldn't have got out the first time, frankly. The second time, though, is one of those double-edged swords where I got out because I knew that if I didn't, I just had this overwhelming feeling of doom that I was going to die. Because my Marine Corps career wasn't sunshine and rainbows. But anyway, yeah. So I'd say that. And that's it's like I can say that easily now because I am out. But at the time I didn't think that either. But that's what comes to my mind is getting out.
What's the scariest moment of your life ever?
Probably the first time I had to actually I can tell you the other day. Actually, I think you and I have talked about this. When I got the call that my youngest daughter was getting rushed to the hospital from school, I think that was it right there. That's that because
is that when she fell?
Yeah, when she fell and she couldn't move. So my wife calls me and says, Georgia's getting rushed to the hospital and she can't feel anything and she can't move her arms or legs. That's probably it right there.
And for our listening audience, they may not be aware what happened.
She fell off the monkey bars at school and landed basically on the back of her head and her neck. Yeah, she landed on her back of her head and neck, and we had to play. She got a concussion. Messed up her back a little bit here and there. Nothing that a chiropractor can't fix though. But we didn't know that at the time. Yeah. So her body went into, I can't remember what they call it, like an involuntary shock kind of response, but she couldn't move her arms or legs and she couldn't feel. she could feel in her arms, but she could not feel in her legs or feet
Mm.
for a few hours.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And she's okay now, though?
She's fine now.
Yeah. Wow.
But talk about scary.
Yeah, man.
So that's probably,
Yeah.
and I've, had guns in my face. I've had all kinds of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
As though in my head, that's all stuff that I can handle.
Sure. Yeah, because it impacts you, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
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 So that's the key, is that it was my kid,
Yeah. Yeah, man. I totally get it.
Yeah.
What's the greatest failure? I mean, we all fail in life. We all fail in decisions. We all fail in aspirations and goals, and in relationships, in places of employment. I mean, there's failure all around us throughout our entire lives. I mean, it's part of being human. But what would you say your greatest personal failure has been to this point?
In my Army career, not having more discipline and self-control and taking more seriously my career path. And mainly that is affected by weight and things like that, and not maybe partying when I shouldn't have, because I kind of went off the deep end because I had been married, and you know what I mean? So I kind of went on like this, I don't know what I guess you would call it a bender,
like self-destruct.
Yeah.
Mode. Yeah.
Right. But so I was a fat boy in the Army, but I had so much potential, but it was wasted because I couldn't get promoted. I couldn't. And at that time I blamed everyone else too. I didn't just blame myself, but I was, I had a lot of shit going on. I technically had like some post-traumatic stuff. I had some mental health issues that I was not addressing, from my service and frankly from getting the relationship with my ex-wife. Some counseling, mental health issues that I was just ignoring, and I was covering it up with alcohol and dangerous activities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just I'm gonna do it because it feels good. Right. So not drugs or anything, but food, alcohol, women. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone's kind of been there probably at one point or another.
Yeah, it's a way to escape or try to
escape and numb everything.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with this month's message, kind of.
Right.
But yeah, so I did that for a good number of years, and it screwed me over from the actual potential that I had. And that's exactly.
So what's your greatest achievement or success? You look in the mirror, or you look back on your life and you're like, hell yeah, I did that.
I'd have to say that it's kind of where I'm at now. I look at my family, and I look at the job that I've got now, and I look at, what we're doing with this and what I'm doing with Cigars and Sea Stories. And we're making real impact on people's lives. So I'm in a good place right now in a lot of aspects where I look, and I'm being the most impactful that I've been in the world, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like adding value, because I'm literally every day impacting people to become better.
Right.
Which in turn is allowing me to become better. With the work that we do and that I do with the, things like Warrior Hall and just, Yeah, man.
So moving forward, what in your mind scares you the most?
That's tough because I don't know. I try not to live my life that way, I guess, is the answer to that. I don't think about, I do risk assessments on things a lot, that's just my nature. But I just kind of take life in the present as much as I can. So I don't know, Eddie. That's a question that I just...
Is that something that's even worth considering? For those that are out there
it very well might be, but not for me.
Right.
Because I've been on this earth 42 years and I know myself well enough now that does me no good.
Yeah. But then you got people that are listening that are absolutely frozen in time because of all of the fears that they have in their life.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the piece of advice that I would give them is live in the now, live in the present. Don't even, remember the past. Obviously, it's made us who we are.
Yeah.
And the future is where you're going. But think of it in a general aspect, or be very specific in what you want to accomplish. Is really the key, at least for me.
Yeah.
Is be very specific in what you want to accomplish and focus on that. Don't focus on, because I used to be that guy that would focus on the what if. And I have a year's supply of food because of that.
Right.
I have now, maybe it's because I've done it all already. And I'm prepared to the point where I've done all that I can do. You can live like that if you want. You can live in the Alex Jones InfoWars world of constant preparedness for what might come, whether it's political unrest. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I know a lot of people are preppers. You can end up with that moniker, or they're trying to figure out what their kids are going to do in the future and plan for that and plan for this and plan for that. Plan, but yet they don't accomplish shit in the present. So they always fail to reach their goals or reach the plans that they've got planned. You know what I mean? Because they're so busy planning that they're not actually doing.
You've mentioned to me before, and something is this concept that I think on the surface I knew, but I never really kind of unpackaged it until you really talked about it. And this is this idea of experiences over things, right? With regard to
that's really how I live my life.
Yeah. So could you describe briefly what that idea, that concept between experiences versus things?
Okay, so things are just that. They're things. Like you said in the aspect of Christmas. Okay, I don't give my kids toys. I don't. I haven't bought them toys in I can't tell you how long. But I've bought them experiences, meaning memberships to the zoo, memberships to the science museum, trips to any number of places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even trips to like an amusement park as a family, or trips to Disney or whatever. So basically what I'm giving them is different experience, right? Versus giving them stuff.
Now, where does that come from? Does that stem from experiences you've had in childhood, or?
Yes, that stems from my mom, really. Because we didn't have shit. My mom, there was time. My mom and I struggled. Because my dad ended up, this is a whole nother story, but I'm not going to go deep into it. But my dad went to jail. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. So I'm unveiling that to the audience. My dad went to jail when I was 10. Okay. So it was truly me and my mom. And in jail, you don't really provide child support.
Right.
Plus, my mom was a grad student. She didn't make shit. I mean, we were living in poverty. That's the only way to describe it, and that lasted for years, frankly, because even once we moved to Connecticut, because she sacrificed to live where we lived so I could go to basically one of the best public schools in the nation. So we still, like I said, even though we weren't poor, like my mom made really good money in comparison, we were poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all relative, right? At that point.
I mean, we had a 2-bedroom apartment that we were paying. My mom, this is a 1990 when we moved into the last apartment that we lived in, 1990. And she was paying almost $1,000 a month then for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
Okay. So
your dad was out of the picture your entire time growing up?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I talk to him on the phone every once in a while, but that doesn't mean shit. He hasn't been a part of my life, like a important part of it since then.
Right.
So for 32 years. I talk to him every week. We text, but we're talking about the weather, and that's the way I describe it. Just conversations that are not very meaningful. They're weather conversations.
Do you still, at 42 years old, do you still find yourself harboring kind of contentment and
I
animosity
don't.
towards him?
I don't think so. Um, I, that's nothing I've really delved into really deeply, like with like therapy and stuff like that. But I don't think so. I don't feel animosity towards my father at all. Um, it just is what it is.
Now, I don't know if you want to talk about it, and we can edit this part out, but I know the listening audience is probably all asking themselves, what do you go to jail for?
Yeah, because my dad, frankly, it's because my father's still alive.
Got it.
And I have other family in. That's not something I really want to go to.
Yep.
Go into. Like, I don't know if I've talked to you about it. I don't remember.
Well, yeah, you and I have covered it, but
yeah. So in turn, no, it's not something I want to announce to the world just because it's because of my family.
Yep.
And I don't want to go there.
Totally get it. And it's just, things
and I'm an open book. I talk about everything.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things that can screw other people's shit.
Well,
so
yeah, it impacts more than just you.
Yeah. I'm not
I mean?
going there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go there.
Totally get it. I just had to ask the question because I know the audience are probably like wondering. So get it. So how do you define, like, right now in your life, what does it mean to be successful?
Frankly, it's one of those things, like, if I can provide comfort and have for my family, and also provide myself with a meaningful, it's the balance, man. It's the balance of being able to provide myself with what I need to do, to maintain my own physical and mental health and be in a good place, as well as provide for the family doing so.
It's quite the juggling act there.
It is a juggling act, but it's doable because I'm pretty much there.
What's your one, if you were to sum up everything into a culmination of one life goal, what would you consider to be your one life goal to be? Like, you and I talk a lot about Gary Vaynerchuk, and like everyone knows, anyone that knows Gary knows that his life goal is to buy the Jets, become the owner of the Jets, and everything that he does along the way is pointing towards that North Star. What would you consider to be that for you?
I want to create an actual Warrior Hall.
Like a physical building type of.
A physical, like an actual physical place. And there's places that are models for that, but they still don't go to the point where it needs to be done for the modern day warrior. So
what's stopping you right now from achieving that today?
Nothing really. I'm going through that process, man. I'm literally, because this is one thing that people need to realize, because we live in such a world of instant gratification. I mean, you remember, dude, when you couldn't get a hold of anybody anytime. It was always like you had to wait till you knew that they were home. You left a message or whatever. There's instant gratification with everything from communication to the way we do everything, the way you eat your food, the way you do everything nowadays, right?
Yep.
So what I've put back into my life is the process. Okay. And shit, we could probably write a book or something about it called The Process.
Right.
Everything is a process. So who really does this? Is it Simon Sinek? Really? Harps on this a lot. And that's for people that have patience. And I didn't have patience before, for years. But once I decided that I had to attack things as a process and have patience in that process, that I understood that it's about the journey more than it is about the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, totally makes sense.
So I might not create this Warrior Hall until I'm 60.
Mm-hmm.
It might be 20 years from now, but I'm going to end up creating it. But it's not, you don't start at the finish. So people are like, well, why don't you just go build it?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not my journey. That's not how it works.
Right.
I'm not going to go into debt to create the Warrior Hall.
Right.
Because that's not the way it should work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And frankly, I'm not sure if I am equipped to teach the lessons that I want to teach these guys yet.
Right. No, I totally get it.
Does that make sense?
Totally
so it's kind
makes
of
sense.
like I've totally plotted out this journey for my life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have a time frame, but there's markers.
Yeah, it's like Luke Skywalker didn't just wake up one day and was able to take on the dark side, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he had to go through tutelage and experiences and trials and tribulations, successes and failures along the way to build up his power, his strength, his knowledge base.
I think a lot of it has to do with ego as well.
Sure, absolutely.
You can't. People are controlled by their ego, and what that does is it allows they like get to a point where they're like, "Oh yeah, I can do anything,"
Mm-hmm.
and that might be true. And we always talk about failure as an integral part of all of this, and I'm sold on that aspect, and I'm sold on that concept. But I don't think you have to always continue to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you fail spectacularly in certain aspects, that you should learn enough to make it so you don't fail
Mm-hmm.
to an extent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Not monster fails. I refuse to have monster putting my family in jeopardy fails.
Right.
I can do it without having to do that.
Yeah.
If I fail, I fail. But my family shouldn't have to suffer for my failures.
Yeah.
And I think there's a balancing act between that. And I think, guys, that's ego and selfishness, because entrepreneurs that are out there doing business, how many of them have we heard the stories about? Next thing you know, they're entrepreneurs. They're out there risking it all.
Mm-hmm.
That includes their wife, their marriage, and their family.
Right. That's not worth it.
To me, that's unacceptable.
Right. Absolutely.
And you can put it all on the line, but seriously, these are people that depend on you
Mm-hmm.
to be the rock. And frankly, that's another failure. But that's a huge failure that's kind of unacceptable
Mm-hmm.
in my view, because these are people that you're supposed to serve. These are people that you're supposed to take care of. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not, and that doesn't have to hold you back. It just has to give you purpose. It has to give you that rock solid point where you're like, I won't go past this point because I've done it and it's not worth it.
Nope.
I lost a marriage because of it, and you know what I mean? And I'll be damned if I do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I can still achieve greatness in my own mind, I guess, without risking my family's well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And in keeping, I got a couple more questions and we're wrapped up. But in keeping with this month's theme of relationships, you and I, obviously we've got relationships with our family and to some degree folks that we work with at work, right? But you and I have built a relationship amongst you and I as brothers, right? And most of our relationship has really cultivated, via the internet and or phone calls or texting or whatever. I mean, it's not like you and I have built this relationship by seeing each other in person. I think we've only actually seen each other 4 or 5 times physically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, the times that we do spend together in person, we're building that relationship and we're building those experiences. But most of the relationship building we've done has been done online. But so I just wanted to kind of make that distinction that folks, you don't have to to have meaningful relationships in your life, it doesn't have to be with your next door neighbor, right? I mean, but we live 4 hours apart from one another, and we're able to manage this pretty effectively. But you've become a very important part of in my life as a friend in this relationship that we've built. How important, now this is to the guys out there listening to the show, a lot of the veterans that find it difficult to find purpose, to find meaning. Oftentimes you don't find purpose and find meaning all by yourself. Like it's very rare where you go on a walkabout like you do in Australia, and you go out there and you just happen to find yourself and find purpose and direction. Oftentimes you end up finding that purpose and direction by meeting up with and becoming acquainted with somebody that shares the same passions, dreams, aspirations, and you find purpose and meaning together. And I may not be that person for you, but you are that person for me. But the question I'm asking to you is, how important is it to build meaningful relationships with other men in our lives outside of our family and coworkers?
Oh, it's crucial. And you need to find men that, I guess the best way to describe it is try to create a fire team of guys. I would say a core group of 4 to 6 guys that you can turn to when you need to, that get it. But make them a cross section of, as big a swath of society as you can. Really, but you've got to have those 1 or 2 guys that you can call and talk to about anything. And yeah, you're one of those guys for me. I've got some other guys that, I'll talk to them, but it's not about everything. Like, I don't go to them when I've got a personal problem. You know what I mean? But the aspect of having other men in your life is crucial. I mean, if you're surrounded completely by women, you're going to start acting like a freaking woman. I mean, there's no other way to describe men and women, as much as current society would like to make you think, are different. Ladies and gentlemen, we're different biologically, physically, and mentally. Your brain works differently than theirs. We're just different. Okay. And regardless, the roles that we traditionally play in society, the barriers can be broken down a little bit, but they're still going to remain the same for the most part. And you can see that as it being oppressive or whatever you want to, but that's not the truth. That's not reality. Okay.
And that goes right in line with this month's book, right? If you are a member of this month's book club, we are currently reading and or listening to a book called Hold On to Your Nuts. It's an incredible book. This was a book that was recommended to me by you, Bennett. And once I listened to it, I'm like, oh, hell yes, this has got to be part of our book club. So last month's book was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is incredible. And folks, here's the kicker. If you join the book club right now, you not only get in on this month's book, Hold On to Your Nuts, but you also get to listen to all the exclusive episodes that we did last month for The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's over there on our closed Facebook group. And it's pretty good stuff, man. So that's going to wrap it up, man. I could sit here and ask you 1,000 more questions. You're just a really good dude. You got a wealth of information and knowledge and experience and heart. Let's just face it. You're just a very heartfelt guy, man. And it's not common to find people that are willing to kind of open the book, so to speak, and let it all out there and be as transparent as you are. And you are one of those guys, and I cherish that in you. And I really do appreciate that. And I'll just end this show by saying one of the things that I value the most in you as my friend is the fact that you push me to become better than I was yesterday. And you are candid and honest, and that's the kind of friendship and relationship that I need. I don't need more yes men in my life, people that are just wanting to get in my good graces or make me feel good about myself. Like, I need somebody to like push the envelope and push my expectations even of my own self. And I really do value that in you, and I try to repay the favor as much as I possibly can. But so folks, get hooked up with the book club. It's more than just books. I mean, we're not sitting here talking about, you know, some little journal that, you know, these are life-changing books, things that will make you take pause in your life and in your relationships and really think about, am I doing everything I can to be the best husband that I can be? Am I doing everything I can to be the best father that I can be? Am I doing everything I can do to be the best employee or son, or you fill in the blank? And so that's what these books are about, and they are truly life-changing books if you read them or listen to them and you actually implement some of those ideas and thoughts.
The only thing that I'm going to leave off with is this, is that especially for guys, that once you have children, it's not about you anymore.
That's right.
I mean, it is to an extent, but you have to look outside yourself and understand that every single thing, because this happened with my father. I'm not going to go into it, obviously, but what he did impacted his family greatly. And I live my life pretty much refusing to compromise that for my kids. I will never, knocking on wood right now, will never put them in the situation where their lives and their being is compromised because of a decision that I made. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
So in turn, yes, risk is a good thing, folks, to an extent, but don't risk the things that really mean what life is worth living for, meaning your relationships, your very meaningful relationships in your family. You just can't. You know what? None of it's worth it.
Right.
It's not worth it to become a billionaire even to risk those. Now, because guess what? There is a path to become a billionaire if that's what you want and that's what you need to do, and still maintain those relationships. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Seriously. There's no reason to have to compromise for that.
That's right.
Because guess what? Bring him into the fold. Look at Donald Trump. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't like the guy. But his family is there with him. Do you think that's by coincidence or is that by design? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just let that marinate in your brain. The man became a billionaire, but guess what? Yeah, he might have been married 4 or 5 times, right? But his kids have never been. I'm just saying, I'm not going in there, but that's, if you want to do that, create something that your kids, that surrounds you with that core family or friends that are really important to you. Okay. And, that's just kind of the way that I have to go about it. So
thank you, sir. Well, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure to actually interview you for a change. And yeah, man, I think the listening audience got to learn a little bit more about you. I know I did. That's good shit. So folks, come be a part of our book club. You can find more by heading over to changeyourpov.com/book club. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way, and you can come be part of our community over at Change Your POV Squad Facebook group. And folks, if you do want to connect with Bennett and carry on this conversation, ask him questions about anything we've covered or that he's talked about tonight, then feel free to hit him up over on the group, on the Facebook page, or over on the website, changeyourpov.com, or you can give him a call, send him an email, whatever it is. Just reach out and make that connection and get involved, ask your questions, and he'd be more than happy to tell you anything that you want to know. So
for sure.
That's it, folks. Until next time.